That's right, folks, it is time to gather around. It is spring break, it is cold, it's been raining. We're gonna make the best of it. And by make the most of it, I mean get some nice moving water shots. We're going to do this all on the phone, and we're not using a slow shutter app, but we're using live photo. So find yourself a nice subject like this, and let's jump in. So the first thing you want to do is take a photo using live photo. Keep it really still when you do that. Kind of looked like a nose, didn't it? And then you swipe up on the photo. You have different options that come up: loop, bounce, and long exposure. Hit long exposure and bam, you find out that you didn't hold it still when you took a picture. So that's one of the most important things about this live photo. When you take the picture, you got to keep the device still the entire time. Otherwise, you get this big blurry, foggy looking mess like you see here. Now if I play this live photo, we can see the water's moving, I'm pretty still. But then at the end, wham, it's not done taking the picture and I came out of it. Patience, grasshopper. Okay, this one looks pretty good. There's not a lot of movement, maybe a tiny bit, but not too much. So let's swipe up, go to long exposure, select that, and boom. Oh, look at that. Smooth like butter. And the cool thing is, it's still a live photo. Press on it. You got your video clip. Let go. You got your smooth butter falls. Now if you zoom in, you can see that there's still detail in the things that were not moving. You zoom in a little more. It's a little bit soft, but overall, I'm pretty happy with this one. Okay, let's just look at one more. This one looks pretty good. We'll swipe up. Do long exposure. Looking nice. Let's zoom in there and check out the water. Nice and soft. The twigs and rocks. Oh, that's my brother. Twigs and rocks look pretty good. The moss is pretty good. Looking sharp. Okay, now what I would like to do is go into Lightroom and give these little, like I like to say, a little special sauce, the spice on top. Here we go. Open up Lightroom, and remember, you can all download Lightroom apps, Photoshop, all that, Premiere, and log in with your usernames and passwords. So we're going to import the photos that we just worked on there. And here they are. I'm going to leave a before on the left hand side and do some processing on the right. I just always start with the light. You see it on the bottom there, that category of selection. Adjust the exposure, maybe add a little bit of contrast. See the low contrast look way too foggy. I'm going to leave it up a little bit here. Just check my highlights here. Usually what I do with these sliders is go all the way one way and the other, see what it's really targeting, and then dial it in. So that looks pretty good there. And maybe the shadows a little bit. The shadows, I like to open them up a little bit. In other words, get a little detail in there. They're dark, but not so dark that you can't see in. Same thing with the blacks and the whites and highlights. And this looks pretty good for the black. And then go to the next category, which is color. Now color, you can get crazy here. You can get it way off the charts that it looks completely unnatural. Usually when I edit on my phone, I take things a little bit too far, just because I like to have fun with it. Now for texture and clarity, this gives it a little bit of detail, a little crunch. Mess with the dehaze a little bit. I like to put a vignette, which is darkening of the corners, and put a bit of a feather on that. The midpoint has to do with how far in that vignette comes. The feather is the gradation between the dark and the light. So you find your sweet spot there. Roundness is just the shape of it, and then sharpen it. With the sharpening, you can get away with a lot with the phone processing, I think, more than on the computer, because it is so small. But take it all the way up, and then the masking takes it off of all the things that it doesn't really need to sharpen. It finds the edges of things and just sharpens that. So that looks pretty good there. There's your before, and there's an after. Now what I'm going to do is hit select on the far left down bottom and I want to target just one particular part of the photo, so the top left in the leaves. So I'll get the brush tool and then brush in this area here. It'll show up in red, and that just lets you know this is where your adjustment is going to happen. And then I'm going to go over to color, and I want to warm that area up a bit. So I'll take that slider up just a skosh, maybe somewhere around there, and you'll see that the leaves up top are a lot warmer now, a lot more orange yellowy. And like I said, I go a little too far. Like looking at it right now, it might be a little bit too warm, but there's your before, there's your after. Not bad. Okay, I'm gonna go on to one more here, but I'm gonna put it in fast forward, and you'll see that I'm really doing all the same things that I did to the first photo there. Checking out the color, the exposure, saturation, now a little detail. Pop a vignette on there. Do the sharpening, mask the sharpening. Sometimes I'll revisit one of the other ones after I make some of those. That looks good. Now I think we're gonna do a little selective edit here with the water, and I think we'll make this a little more blue. So we're painting in that area. That's the part that will be adjusted. Then I'll go down bottom to the color category there and drag that temperature toward the cool side. You can see how crazy that gets. Just a little bit will do it. And then dial that back a little bit. There you go. No, I don't think that's good. And maybe take the saturation of that blue down just a skosh. Yeah, and then the temperature, draw that back a little bit. Like I said, I'll revisit old adjustments because they all affect each other. Yep, and I like what I see there. So now let's add one more selective edit here to the leaves, kind of like I did in the other one there. So we'll go to the selection tool there, paint in the areas that I want the adjustment in, this side and the other one, and then go to those adjustments. We're going to make that area a little bit warmer. Take that slider up and maybe tweak that saturation a little bit, and voila, looks good. Okay, so everything that happens in Lightroom stays in Lightroom unless you export it. So I'm going to export this to my camera roll, and that usually takes just a moment. You can also export with a certain file type. There's all sorts of options there for you. So let's go to this one and export, although, you know, let's do a selective edit on this one first. I forgot about the water before. We're going to add a little more blue because I liked what I did with the second edit, and cool that down just a tad. Woo, easy does it. Just a tad. That looks good. Maybe the saturation. That looks good there. Now maybe do a little bit of clarity. Tweak that right in there. Okay, everything is looking great. So it's your turn. Get on out there, try these things out. Little live photo, long exposure, pop it in the processor with the special sauce on top.
Opportunity.